Good morning, all. I'm teacher Shaista. Welcome to our science class. This week we are discussing chapter 9, lesson 5 about heat transfer. So, what are the objectives of our lesson? To describe how temperature is measured, to describe how heat is transferred, to explain three different ways of heat transfer. So, let's start with temperature versus thermal energy. So, we can start by discussing what is temperature and what is thermal energy. So, look at this picture. Here you can see a cup with tea, a teacup, and a teapot. So, first of all, you know that all substances are made up of tiny particles or atoms that are constantly moving. So the faster the particles move, the more energy they have. So first of all, you have to know that thermal energy means total energy of motion in particle of substance, and temperature is the average amount of energy of motion of each particles of substance. And temperature is usually measured with thermometer, and a thermometer is a device that used to measure temperature. So you have confused with the temperature and thermal energy. Again, look back to the above picture, a teacup and teapot, which has more substance. Of course, teapot have more tea. Means the teapot has more thermal energy because thermal energy depends on the amount of substance. But when you compare which has more temperature, means the hot tea in the teapot is the same temperature as the hot tea in the teacup because temperature does not depend on the amount of particles. Look at again this picture. You can see which have more particles means the first peak. Means when you compare a thermal energy, the first one has more thermal energy than the second one because it has more particles. But when you compare the temperature of these two, which has more temperature, means both have same temperature because temperature does not depends on amount of the particle. Now temperature is measured in unit called degrees. Two temperature scales are Celsius scales and Fahrenheit scale. Now we can see how heat is transferred. So what is heat? Heat is the thermal energy that is transferred from a hotter object to cooler one. And how heat is transferred. So there are three ways the heat can transfer, which are there: conduction, convection and radiation. First of all, what is conduction? The transfer of heat between two substances that are in direct contact is called conduction. Means when a fast moving molecule bumps into a slower moving molecule, the faster one transfers some of its energy to slower one. The closer together the molecules are in the substance, the better they conduct heat. Means conduction best work in some solids such as metal, but not as well in liquid and gas. Means conduction means direct contact. Means when two substances are in direct contact, the heat transferring by means of conduction. Look at this picture. Here you can see, have you ever touched a metal spoon sitting in the pan of boiling water? Why the spoon getting hot? By the conduction, through the conduction from the water, heat is transferring to spoon. Another example, you can see this picture. The piece of cheese melt as heat is transferred from meat to cheese, direct contact. This is another way of conduction. Okay, now, so we already discussed about first way of heat transfer, that is conduction. Another way is convection. Atoms And molecules in fluid, means liquid and gases, can move easily. As they move, their energy moves with them. The transfer of heat by the movement of fluid is called convection. Look at this picture here. When the water or the fluid get heat, it will they will move, then they will transfer this heat by the movement of fluid. This way of heat circulation is called convection current. Here also you can see the heat energy from the stove is transferred to the pot, direct contact, that is by conduction. But the soup is heated in the pan, that is by convection. How? The hot soup rises, cold soup fall to take the hot soup's place. But the pan handles is an insulator and does not conduct heat very well. Another example of conduction, you can see air movement in the home, a pot heating water. These all are examples of convection. And the third way of heat transfer is radiation. Radiation is the transfer of heat by electromagnetic waves. Radiation does not require matter to transfer thermal energy. As you know that conduction and convection required a matter, a solid or liquid. But radiation does not require a matter to transfer thermal energy. Most of the heat that you feel from the sun travels to you as infrared radiation, which you cannot see but you can feel. So the energy from sun or the heat from the sun, which way of heat transfer is by means of radiation, not by conduction or convection. So, and you can, another example, have you ever sat too close to the campfire while cooking a marshmallow? You are enjoying the warmth only to notice that your skin is really hot. Another examples of radiations are fire, heat lamp and sun. So these are the summary of the lesson. Three way of heat transfer, conduction, convection and radiation. Now another part, heating the troposphere. Radiation, conduction and convection work together to heat the troposphere. During a sunny day, the lands get warmer than the air, but because air doesn't conduct heat well, only the first few meters of tropospheres are heated by conduction. The first layer is heated by conduction, but when air at the ground level warms, its molecules spread out, making it less dense. Cooler, denser air sinks towards the surface, forcing the warmer air to rise. The upward movement of warm air and the downward movement of cool air form a convection current. Heat is transferred mostly by convection within the troposphere. Thank you, and thank you all.